This is it. They belong to different countries, obviously.
Yes, yes, yes.
Indonesia, of course.
Yes, and all three from this country.
England.
Yes.
Right. We have met before, haven't we? No?
First time here.
First time?
Yes.
Right. And they are together?
Yes, they belong to the teaching profession, but teaching in different school. These are husband and wife, two of them, and
Good.
they're all three teachers.
Mashallah. And you are Indonesia's charge d'affaires in Germany?
Cultural attaché.
Cultural attaché, right. Where's your family?
No, they are
Have you
still
left
in
them
Bonn.
in Germany?
Them in Bonn, yeah.
Right. So,
We are on our way
was
back.
it an official visit you came?
No, just a private visit.
Right, that's right. So,
Yes.
let's start.
Introduction?
Yes.
Yes. So we have 4 guests today. The first one on my right is Mr. Zafir Ponto from Indonesia. He is in Germany, as you have already
Cultural
mentioned.
attaché.
Culture, yes. And next is the couple, Mr. and Mrs. Antrick. They are both teachers of classics, teaching in 2 different schools. And
Classics?
Yes.
Literature?
Yes, Latin and Greek civilization.
That's right, yes.
they are both Jewish. And the fourth lady is Miss Diana Gunatilake. She is also a teacher of geography in a Muslim school.
Geography?
Geography, yes.
In a Muslim school?
Yes.
Yes.
And she is Buddhist.
Are there Muslim schools here?
Yes, it's called Islamia Girls High School,
Right, right.
and
Run by which organization?
it's run by the founder was the singer, the former singer, Cat Stevens. Now he has turned,
I know,
become
I know,
a
yes,
Muslim,
that's right.
Brother Yusuf.
Yes, yes, yes. And who funds it?
He get funds from the Middle East, and now we are asking for grant maintenance status.
That's right, yes.
Hopefully we might get in September.
This is why I asked, because I know no Muslim or religious schools can be run here without some funding from somewhere.
It is a private school, so the parents
I
pay
know,
fees.
and the funding is also privately achieved,
That's correct. Yes.
right?
Yes. Mr. Zafir, please present the question.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is about Adam, as we know that there are some 100,000 Adam appeared in the earth, and were they all instructed with the same instruction by Allah as not to approach this tree, and whether this tree be
How
a
do you know
tribe?
that?
Well, that is my question, whether they were all instructed the same
So
thing.
you answered your own question, in fact, by suggesting that they were all taught by God. I don't agree with that proposition, because a tradition of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah has been misunderstood by people. Because had there been other Adams before us with full religious civilizations, running back into 100,000 years or so, then it would be impossible for them not to leave behind a traceable record. So it's just believing in tales if you take it literally in that sense. But not even that, it has not been mentioned anywhere in that hadith that these were the Adams who founded religions. So in fact it's a very profound hadith on the concept of evolution of man. Man went through various stages, and each species was headed definitely by one new emergence into life, a new form of emergence into life. It is that basic phenomenon which is referred to as Adam. So whenever one founds a new species, a new generation, the founder member is called Adam, according to the Quranic terminology. So personally I believe this is what the hadith meant, that man has left behind a trail of 100,000 or more Adams which he doesn't know of. But every time life progressed from one species to another, from one order to another, there has to be a single person or a few persons here or there, if not single, who ushered a new era. And if you go back in time and consider yourself looking down from their vantage point, you will see yourself to be most advanced, as if an Adam is born. It was only an approach to the ultimate Adam which was made previously by various pioneer members of a new genera or a new generation or species, as I've said, right? In view of this, I understand. I know that this next question will not be born, huh?
Yes.
Right? Please.
I'd like to ask you about the war in Bosnia over the last few years. I was very angry and distressed at what happened there, and I felt that the West did very little to help the Bosnians.
Right.
I felt that as a human being, obviously. As a Jew, it reminded me very
Of the
much of what
Holocaust and
happened to
things,
the Jews,
right.
including some of my own family, in Europe during the Second World War. And I wonder if you feel that one of the reasons the West did so little for the Bosnians is because they're not sympathetic towards them because they are Muslim, whether there was a religious dimension there or an anti-religious dimension.
I understand, but there are a few things which I would require you to take note of. Number one, when you refer to the religious persecution of Jews, you started rather late, because your history of persecution at the hands of the Christians lies so deeply embedded in the whole history of Europe.
True.
That to start at that late stage is not relevant. You know, at the time of the plague, was it 1500 something or around there, that Black Death, which played terror with Europe, all the blame was put on the Jewish shoulders, and they were burnt alive in thousands. They were robbed and their houses were looted and destroyed. That is also a part of history. Go back to Spain, what happened there. Go back to other eras of Jewish persecution in Germany, in England, elsewhere. So this has been the madness of man. I don't call it Christianity at all. Christianity I know of is only from Jesus Christ. He would have been most shocked at the Christian behavior if he had come alive at that period of time which I am referring to. But it is not just one period. It's a whole continuation of a repeated misbehavior. And in that much I would agree with you that mad religious clergy is responsible ultimately. And the politics also is responsible for coming into a criminal alliance with the religious clergy. When they go hand in hand, then these things happened. And without politics, it could not have happened. It's impossible. But the initiator of all such madness is, to my knowledge, religious clergy of the Christians, who in fact have been made ineffective in their own area of domination, which is religion, to bring people back to the life of Jesus Christ. Having failed there, this is the only revenge they take against anybody whom they think is opposed to Jesus. Through misinterpretation of Christianity, they take revenge on behalf of of the Christian faith, though it is not Christian faith. It is a personal sense of deprivation. They have been deprived of leadership in religion. So an agony inside, seething within, finds its expression against others. And this is the madness of the whole history of persecution in Europe. And as far as the Bosnia is concerned, it's, again, I think the unseen faces are there, of course, who are agitating certain minds in different clever ways. But in this case, I don't think the politician needed an agitation anyway, because it invoked memories of the past, like Saladin's days. They call Saracens, confrontation with the Christian cross-bearers. So these holy wars on the side of Christianity, as they call it, and unholy war on the part of Islam, as they refer to it, all these images are invoked by what they saw happening in Bosnia. But there too, it was the Serbian leadership in Yugoslavia which was also responsible for manipulating these subdued sentiments.
Yes.
And they went here and everywhere they came to Europe. You say, look here, another Balkan war is in the offing. If you permit Muslims to flourish here in the name of Islam, in the middle of Europe, then there will be no end to it. So all these projected fears of a Balkan war
Yes.
through your television and media were just hocus-pocus, meaningless things. When they decided to take action, there was no Balkan war, the threat of Balkan war which could stop them. But it all came from America, not from Europe. In Europe, the voice of Germany was suppressed by the overall sentiment of Europe.
Yes.
And only when some French mirages were downed by the Serbian fire, then France, raised its head against this. And that triggered off the train of events, and also gave opportunity to President Clinton for putting his foot down, which he wanted to because of certain pressures brought about upon him. Among them, I know, were Jewish pressures. Among them were also very strong pressure indirectly by Ahmadis, because I gave a call to the world Ahmadis to start writing letters directly to the Pentagon, to the President's house, and also the American press, of reminding of their responsibility, or they would be exposed to the whole world in relation to two Muslim countries and their comparative attitude towards them. On the one hand is Kuwait, on the other Bosnia. In case of Kuwait, the strong exception is taken because a Muslim country dares to attack a Muslim country. In case of Bosnia, no exception is taken because a non-Muslim country is attacking a Muslim country. What fantastic comparison it makes.
Yeah.
So they have been highlighting this, and I know after every attempt on our part to bring it home to the American government and American House of Congress, etc., there was a definite change in their attitude, and we watched the press which followed, sometimes exactly as we had suggested. So this encouraged us, and we thought that the best thing is to reach the public opinion and the suppressed sentiment of the public. I'm explaining this because Ahmadis have no power whatsoever in the United States to pressurize the government or to change their policies. But we knew, having our fingers on the pulses of the American public, that this is how they felt. So to give voice to their own people was the wisest course first to adopt. So it influenced them because of their own real understanding that inside we are not happy. We know this is a contradiction. So like a laser phenomenon, when it went together, it suddenly jumped into a very high pitch of power and irresistible strength. So this is a common cause, I know, I know one Jewish person, I don't remember his name. He won some lottery, and he dedicated half of that or more to the Bosnian cause. And again, I was surprised to learn from a Bosnian Muslim leader that when we pressurized United Nations as well, a delegation met them at the highest level and said, look here, what's happening, you take your responsibilities or quit. There is no third option. Then they raised funds, attempted to raise funds after this, and the Muslim countries made some promises of 10 million or this and that. So these Bosnian people told me that when we met them, we were surprised to learn that none of them had realized his promise or their promises. The only real help which ever came, even small, from among the Muslims, it came from Ahmadiyya Jamaat. From among the non-Muslims, it came from the Jews. So this was a universal attitude of the Jewish people towards this problem, which because of their power and influence they hold, must have created a strong impression on policymakers. Thank you for all this.
Thank you.
It was a good human cause. Yes. Please.
I'm a school teacher, and so I'm particularly interested when our Minister of Education, Gillian Shepherd, said recently that schools should try much harder to teach morality.
That's right.
But I was wondering, is it too late by the time children are at school, or does it all come from the family background? I'm interested to know the
You see,
Muslim
this
point
is
of
a
view.
subject which I don't say that it was because of my advice that they did it, but I know that the previous education minister, who is now, I think, the exchequer of France, eh? What, his name? Who came to join
Clark. Kenneth Clark.
Kenneth Clark.
Yes.
When he was Minister of Education, he very kindly accepted my invitation and came to dine with me. And this was a hot issue in those days, debated whether there should be some religious education or not. So I'm glad that he came to see me, because he was about inclined to give in to those pressures and start introducing religious education as such. So I remember having warned him that it will be a suicidal policy if he permits religious education in public schools or whatever schools they are. What he should introduce is religious morality, because in the area of ideology, all religions at present are at war with each other. In the area of morality, they are at one. I have yet to come across a religion which says tell lies, cheat others, usurp other people's rights, and this is what you need. So if the right knee is suffering, why treat the left knee? That is the argument which I presented to him, and he agreed wholeheartedly. I see the wisdom of this, but unfortunately at that time nothing much could be done on this issue. Later on, during my meetings like I'm meeting with you, on my televised programs, repeatedly I have been drawing the attention not only of Britain but also all the Western governments that this is our need of the hour. You must pay your attention to the issue of morality. If you do not return to morality, then you cannot find fight crime or any other thing which you find detrimental to the peace of the country effective if you delay the issue too much. So I have been receiving good responses from different countries, and they have been taking respective measures. This time during my visit to America and Canada, I have also raised the same issues during my meetings with the people who belong to the policy making area, and also in my press conferences, etc. So, although the press conference was not publicized, were my statements, because they were in complete agreement with what I said, I knew they will not publish them. Because if they find something which is, which impresses people, which is good, which is what they need, they're not interested in such statements at all. If I had said, rise Muslims, kill all the Jews and all the Christians and this and that, and capture the sources of power, then the whole national press and the small press of America should have flashed this news with my pictures, with what they call the red eye phenomenon, when your eyes are bloodshot. This is what they're interested in. So they're not really interested in morality or anything. What they're interested in is to feed the people what they need. What they need, what they require. But in some European press, they have been publishing my statements on this issue. Particularly in Germany, they have always been more sincere and honest regarding this. But in English press, I have never seen any such thing. But with the grace of Allah, now through television, we are reaching them. Because all the intelligence agencies must take notice of what is being done through MTA. And this is their own interest. It's not because they are influenced by me or anybody. They want to know what different televisions are trying to create. So as such, I know it will be reported. So I am so happy that you have told me this. I didn't know that they have already issued a statement to this effect, that they must return to moral teaching. It's too late or not, this is not just the only issue. Is it not contradictory? Do they take similar simultaneous measures in other areas of their approach to these issues of peace in the country, peace at heart, peace in the streets, peace at home, etc. Unless they take simultaneous measures in all these areas, this moral education in school will create very little dent on crime. Because on the one hand they'll say be moral, on the other hand they will say, if a Muslim girl runs away from her home, that my parents want me to be moral, all the social organizations will jump to embrace her and say, don't bother, we'll take care of you. Do whatever you like, run away with any Tom, Dick and Harry. We'll provide you home from home. When with these contradictions, when they say open rules, that when you come to age, there are no moral holds on you from keeping you after once you have reached the age of majority. Now this is the common talk in the name of freedom, individual freedom. They are violating the principles of mutual rights. So this is the dilemma we are facing, unfortunately. Please.
I teach in a Muslim school, and there are quite a few, very few Muslim schools in this country, and we come to the stage where with the Ofsted and different state funding systems, we have to change the subjects and the curriculum in the school.
Now, what do you mean by Muslim school? First, please, would you kindly
it's all Muslim.
Explain this. What do you mean by Muslim school?
It's a religious school. It's all.
In what sense?
It's Muslim school. It's all Muslims. No other faiths.
No other Muslims, no other people are admitted in their school.
No
Okay,
students.
number one. But what do you teach them? Of ideology, of doctrine.
We teach. Recently we have been asked to start subjects like technology and PE to give more time for subjects like that. So we have come to the crossroads.
No, but what doctrinal training you give them? Because if they call themselves Muslims, they may belong to Shiites, and you would not shut your doors to the Shiites, would you? If they want to join this school, will you? Will you refuse them admission in the school because they are Shias?
I have no idea about that. It's all
Or
Muslim.
they are Barelvis, or they are Wahhabis, and they are this and that. You see, there are 72 sects in Islam, like there were 72 Septuagint in the Jews, among the Jews. So they have their own ideologies. So when you call it a Muslim school, just to admit people who are Muslims in name.
Muslims by religion, that's right, yes.
But what religion do they hold? What idea of Islam have they got in their minds? What the school will teach them? If the school does not teach them what Islam is, then why call it a Muslim school? What is the purpose of that school?
We teach more Islamic history, and we don't teach world history.
Again, when you teach Islamic history, from which vantage point? From a Shia's point of view or from a Sunnah's point of view? Because those histories differ.
I'm sorry, I have no idea about that.
This is what I'm pointed out.
So
Cleverly and imperceptibly, some sects capture the Muslim children's minds through such names, Muslim school and this and that. But the policy of teaching something is always governed by those who fund. You can't change this. So if the funding is done by Saudians, it would be Saudi ideology without naming it. It should be taught to the children of the school. And very little will the parents realize what they are doing.
So my question is, in your opinion, what should be the ideal education for?
The ideal education for a Muslim should be to go to all the schools and carry their character, the stamp of their faith and their conduct with them as a passport to every school, because only then they can mix with others with advantage. The only purpose of creating such schools is to give the Muslim students an advantage over a society which draws them to non-Islamic values. If this is not the purpose, then it's purposeless. But these schools cannot serve this cause anyway, because after they finish the schools, do they go to some Muslim universities here? Which Muslim Oxford or Cambridge University will they go? It's all a meaningless exercise of propaganda value, nothing more than that. And if you create rigid people in that school with orthodoxy being their training philosophy, then you will further do damage to Islam, because the image of Islam already is tarnished enough in the name of orthodoxy, non-tolerance and this and that. And which views will you impart to them in the name of Islam? What sort of God will you present to them? What type of prophet will you present? The man with the sword, or a man with love on his lips and sacrifice in his conduct? Just the name doesn't mean anything. That is why I oppose the creations of Muslim school, Ahmadi school, this school. This is nonsense. It is the responsibility of the parents to teach them Islam at the level, and there could be some additional schools for teaching Islam according to the brand of Islam to which they belong. There should be no fraud played in the name of Islam upon Muslim children. The authorities which run such schools should be brave and honest enough to say, here we teach Wahhabiyat, the official faith of Saudians, and if anybody is interested in that, come to us. Somebody should say, here we teach Shiaism of the Asna Ashari, the 12 Imam people, and if you are interested, come. But that should be an additional, like night classes, so that the secular education, which is essential for all the people of the world today, goes on uninterrupted. So whatever additional religious education they want to impart to the people, to their own people of their own faith, why should we have any objection to that? Let them do it. But do it honestly and openly and wisely. Not like this, I'm sorry to criticize your school, but this is how I feel. I'm generally convinced that it's useless and meaningless. And also it doesn't tell everything about itself. Right? Thank you. Please.
The Muslim scholars of the old times, they were knowledgeable in science and also in religion, and they are half of, I think, they knew mathematics and physics in Cordoba or during the old times. They were like Al-Khwarizmi, they knew some
But
religious.
What you mean to say perhaps is, they were not known as religious scholars.
Yes.
They were known to be a good believing, practicing Muslims, yet scholars in various sciences. In fact, pioneers in some philosophies and sciences. If that's what you mean, I agree with that.
Yes. And would you advise to the current Muslim universities in different countries to follow these steps on?
Which steps?
That not only to be just scientific, but also they have to.
You see, no universities in Spain, in the days we were talking about, taught mixed teachings, secular sciences and religious sciences together. Had they done it, the system should have failed. Because what happened in Spain was not what happened in the Umayyad dynasty or Abbasid dynasty later on. There, the education was directly influenced by the Muslim clergy, and they would not permit any deviation from the understanding of the Quran which they had. So that is why religious persecution and murders and on small things were so often carried out that they have unfortunately earned a very bad name for the Muslim history of that period. But in Spain it was a very different story. In Spain, the ideal meaning of secularism was understood. In the common pursuit of knowledge, Muslims, Christians, the Jewish people, and even the non-believing went hand in hand. There was no friction whatsoever between them. If the colleges, universities you are proposing had been in operation in that Spain, this growth and spirit of knowledge would have come to a dead end and would have been completely destroyed. Until Christianity, the misunderstood Christianity of Isabella, etc., interfered with the affairs and destroyed the future of Spain, this continued to flourish, what I am talking about. So I am not in favor of such universities and schools and things. People should be taught two things in different compartments. If people are interested in Islam, learning Islam and specializing in Islam, there should be such schools which should provide them this teaching. Only the area where intermixing is not only advisable, it is warranted, is the area of history and sociology, etc., where the Western scholars, in the name of secularism, have done damage to the belief in God, because they have carried their secularism to the extent where they think secularism must be loyal to atheism or agnosticism. If they discover anything which indicates the existence of God, they would shut their mouths and pass over it as if it was insignificant. When they can find fault with the belief of the people, they specifically take up the issue and kick such a shindy about it that after studying in the universities the history, the sociology, etc., most of the people, if they are not very well fortified in their own religion, will end up as atheists or at best agnostics. So there, systematically and sensibly, these issues should be taken up by all the religious universities in Islam, and they should counter these influences by analyzing the whole situation and in the area of arguments to prove them wrong, not otherwise. So this will not give birth to prejudices at all, not to the wrong sort of fundamentalism. This is unfortunately what is not done today by any university in the world, Muslim university, neither in Cairo nor in Syria nor in Pakistan, Islamabad, nowhere. They are not aware of the dangers to Islam and believers as a whole from these trends. They send their students to these universities and they come back colored with the same views. Only if they want to save their faith, it is merely because they have learned to live in contradictions. Their profession is their knowledge, their faith is their private affair. And somehow, they make them run together simultaneously. Such people who are, who are subject to dualism and contradictions, inconsistencies, they can't do anything of good for the mankind. So this is my open view about religious education. It should be, of course there should be religious education, but separately from the study of nature. There are two areas of manifestation of God, one through word, one through actions. There shouldn't be any contradiction between the two. And if you mix these things up, like it happened in the Abbasid period, the mullahs will take hold, whatever they understand from the Quran, if anything contradictory is said, they would say they have become non-Muslim, will not permit such teaching in our universities. This has been the main dilemma. But Spain was free from this, right? Please.
You were talking earlier on about different sects and different levels of orthodoxy, and in Britain, as a Jew, I have the opportunity to belong to a wide range, ranging from the ultra-Orthodox at one end to virtually secular Jews at the other.
Right.
And I've been brought up in the Reform movement, and that's
Right.
where my allegiance lies. In Britain today, for Muslims, is there a similar range of religious opportunities, if you like? And how easy is it to be a progressive Muslim?
I doubt this, and I apologize with you for disagreeing with this approach as well. Because this attitude is born not because of a genuine attempt to resolve the issues of contradictions between the various sects, resolve the religious differences, dogmatic differences. It is born out of a subdued lack of interest in religion. And one, when he faces this problem of associating with any one single sect, of subscribing to those orthodoxy views as against others, one finds it very difficult if he is an open-minded, generous person. So what he is doing is, or she is doing is escaping the issue of staring in the eyes of these different schools and deciding for himself or herself which one is the right path. If not, then openly declare that none of these is right. Instead of adopting a policy of saying everybody has to be right, we have some commonality, but where is the commonality left? You see, that is the point. if you one by one discard everything, only then you can reach that commonality, which in reality finds at the extreme end of the spectrum, which you call the secular end. Otherwise, to belong to all the previous sections of spectrum is only a hollow claim, or a claim which one never really put to test. One doesn't make a conscious effort to realize what I propose to be is that me or really or not. So this will happen to the Muslims if they do it, and it is happening to the Muslims through an automatic ongoing process. It happens when the thinking people cannot fully agree with the orthodoxic view of religion. So the first away shift to a safer haven of their own individual views and shells, and they don't open their mouths on these issues and retreat. As long as they do it, whatever their private beliefs, nobody is bothered. Whatever they do, however they live, no religious leader of their own brand would be disturbed. The moment they dare to open their lips on the issues of doctrinal differences, then he will create commotion everywhere. So this is the first attitude which was displayed by Christianity at the time of Renaissance. Gradually, as they went forward, a large number of so-called Christians had already become atheists in reality, because Christianity had lost its hold on their morality. This is exactly what we see today. Morality in what name? If they teach morality, in which name and how? Because this I didn't say in answer to your husband's question, but this is a truth, that morality ultimately is linked with God. You can't keep it alive without linking it onto God. As long as it is associated with the belief in God, it means something. It's a valid coin. The moment it is it's the ties between morality and concept of God, whatever it is, are severed, morality means meaningless. Another form of hypocrisy. So these are the issues, basic issues which we are confronting today. So I don't preach this to the Muslims, because I know with the passage of time those who are really non-believing will automatically shift to this area of believers which you have just suggested. And they are every day. But it doesn't do them any good, because when they shift to this area, practically there is no moral concept except that which is considered to be a human moral concept, which governs their lives and the lives of their children. Because with this attitude, if the children do anything, they shut their own doors to them, between them and the children. No approaches are left. No valid communication on sound religious basis is permitted to continue, to bind them. With the result that different parents give birth to different children. For the parents to adopt an attitude may bring some good to them in the form of some peace, but it does no good to the future of their own progenies and the future of their generations. So I hope you don't mind my open, I shouldn't say open, but courteous disagreement with what you said. Thank you.
For Islam and for Judaism, the year 2000 has no particular significance. Nevertheless, we live in a secular world, and we're coming up for a time of retrospection and judgment of the whole century. in the last 2 or 3 generations, would you say that there have been any good advances in the world? Because we've been very negative about it. Have there been any great people that we should admire?
Great people.
Great people or good events?
I couldn't really follow your question. Would you please elaborate it further? Thank you.
Yes, have there been, for example, any leaders of nations that we could look to as good models for behaviour in the last century? And have there been any advances in man's relationship with men on a national or international level, or have we learned nothing in the last century?
Personally, I believe that there is no need for search of such models outside, because that model has been stamped into you, into every human nature by God. And you have only to have reference to that your model living within you. And it never tells lies, if you are honest. The model is not a liar, man is liar by misconstruing the messages which lie within. And he does it intentionally, and he knows what he's doing. So let's return to that inner imprinted message on man's psyche of general goodness. There's no better message than that. If you seek external models, there's every likelihood that those models will have their own weaknesses, their own flaws, because as such I don't find perfection in human models anywhere except in the form of those God chose to become their his representatives. That's a different area. But in ordinary area of human leadership, I doubt if there are any real models to be followed, because hypocrisy rules supreme in every area of human activity, in politics, in sociology, in economics, everywhere we are riddled with hypocrisy, and that is the curse of this modern life. So don't look within yourself for that model.
Thank you.
Please.
In the present world, there's so many wars, civil wars going on in different countries. In Africa, there's refugees fleeing different countries, and in Ireland, and I come from Sri Lanka, and there's civil war, and it's very unfortunate these
You are from
things
Sri
happen.
Lanka,
Yes.
right?
So, what should be done to avoid these unfortunate incidents? And
Now, are you a Tamil Sri Lankan or Sinhalese?
I'm Sinhalese.
Sinhalese, right? Okay. Buddhist, you said, yes, of course. In the beginning, you had already introduced yourself to be a Buddhist, right?
Buddhist, yes, that's right.
So, what should be the answer to these problems?
That's right, yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Don't you find answer in Buddhism for these problems?
We have, but just would like to know your
Because
idea.
this is very relevant to this issue. If Sri Lanka has not found answer to these problems in Buddhism, how would Sri Lanka expect the whole world to follow the faith of Buddhism to resolve these problems? This is a question which was raised by Buddha himself in address to some Hindu Brahman scholars who came to ask him a few things. He said, have you ever seen God? Have you been to God? Do you come from God? If not, how can you call towards Him? He said, I have been. Now that is from Tripitaka, which, or Tripitaka is also pronounced,
That's right, yes.
which means that Buddha believed in God, because after raising this question he said, I come from God and I live with God. I am entitled to call towards God. So if you have lost that entitlement, you can't call to peace or God or whatever is godliness anywhere, anyone in the world. But the problem is not just confined to the area of Buddhism. The problem is generalized problem which relates to every religion and every people. So it is not religion which is at fault. Religion is only exploited. What is at fault is man's worship of his own ego. God is no longer worshipped. Every man's ego, every woman's ego, every nation's ego is the God they have created, and they would be loyal only to this God and to none other. As long as it happens, no problem will be resolved. We may live in fool's paradise, but no purpose will be served for that. Right? Thank you.
How many languages would you advise a child to learn?
At least 6.
6 until the age of?
Right from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Because this is the considered opinion of the psychologists who have worked on this issue, that don't be ever afraid of overstraining your child, because the earlier you start languages, better it is for the child, and they can all become his mother tongues. If you give him a free chance to learn language from, say, from his nurse, dry nurse maybe, or tutors, or the school outside, parents within, so they have up to 6 languages. They say we know it is safe, and it should be started earlier, because the more the child advances in age, less become the chances of his learning languages properly. After the age of 12, it becomes very difficult for him to learn other languages. So whatever languages he learns from school and universities after that age are sort of, not genuine, with a genuine flow. They are affected with an effort, made with an effort. So a continuous system of translation goes on working in mind for every expression we require in a newly learned language after the age of 12. Because if you have learned Hebrew at that age, for instance, you will always translate. If I am Urdu speaking, I will first have the Urdu concept in mind. Then Hebrew will be born out of the translation, which will automatically. More proficient I grow in translation, the better speaker I will become. But the words of Hebrew will not be accessible directly to me. They won't grow as if from within. But if you learn languages the way I am suggesting, then they can, of course, be your own languages, personalized languages, which grow directly from within you. So that is my advice if you are interested in education. But rather, isn't it rather late for you to do it into your own children?
No.
Huh?
For the
You are still hoping to have some new babies born.
Inshallah.
Huh? Inshallah, that's good. That's good news. Please?
In some countries of the world, there are people who convert to Islam and become Muslims. Sometimes they do it after a program of study, but sometimes they do it very rapidly and quite superficially. Right. Do you think conversion is a good thing generally, and are you worried about these very rapid conversions?
It all depends on what they were before. You see,
yes.
If conversion, however imperfect it is, makes a better people out of them, it's all right, it's welcome. But if it makes worse people out of them, then conversion is the greatest danger to mankind. It all depends on conversion to what and from what.
Yes.
Right?
With respect to this movement, it is not very well known in England to most people.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering, is this something that needs to be remedied and that you're trying to remedy, or is it something that you just have to accept?
You see, the man responsible for this, among some others, is sitting before you. I have been writing to the English Ahmadiyya command even before I became a caliph. So for God's sake, do something. Angels will not descend to change the lifestyle of England and the ideas and things. It is you who are expected to bring about a revolution here, and you are not doing anything. So when I became caliph, then officially I have been instructing them. After my arrival here, continuously, year after year, I have been drawing their attention, you are not yet doing your duty. I have suggested to them means, particularly in relation to the schools and teachers. I said, even if you take up your responsibility in that area, and I advise you do take up your responsibility in that area, and if you do it by mail, you have to do it to the tune of 100,000 or more to reach all schools and education centers and departments, etc. And you have not started. And if you don't create an impression on the teaching community of England, it will be very difficult for you to reach the future generation which goes on emerging from schools into a new independent area of life. But they are not doing it, and there is no question in Islam. That's my limitation, I can't force anybody because they do it only through cooperation. Recently, alhamdulillah, I'm glad that things are beginning to change for the better. More people are getting interested in conveying the message. Now the other thing was that I said, if you spread your message through mail, for instance, hardly there will be 0.1% who would be interested, or even less. But 0.1% of 200,000 is quite some. Much better than 5 or 6 or 10 or 100 people they convert every year. But I told them the follow-up must be done on personal basis. If you go on sending your literature through mail, many people have tried, many Christian organizations are very active in doing it, many Muslim organizations are now doing it, but to what purpose? People read and tear it off and throw. Conversion does not begin at the level of your reading some literature. Real meaningful conversion always follows the conduct of a person who impresses you, in whom you become interested. And unless such models are in circulation and they follow up with this general propaganda of information only, then if they come into contact with such people who have shown some interest, then it is possible for them to be converted, because without this personal example it's impossible to create a real revolution in the area of conversions. And if there is no personal example of goodness which attracts others, then the whole area of conversion becomes a disputed area, like she raised the question, your wife did, and one doesn't know what may become of these conversions. People may go over into the hands of mad people. But if you are converted through good conduct and civilized behavior and universal concept of goodness of man, then there is no danger whatsoever. Then the gain of Ahmadiyyat will be the gain of all the religions. This is what they are working for. Right? Thank you. Now I understand somebody told me that the time was over, or about to be over. Right? So, do you have a question? That's all? Do you have a question?
No.
Oh, thank you. I think because of the time being over, I'll take leave of you now. Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure meeting you. And thank you. Some very interesting questions which needed to be asked, in fact. Thank you very much.